Hello, my name is Valencia Coleman. I am a gameplay engineer at Owlchemy Labs, which is a VR game studio. And between all that, I'm also an indie game dev. Before I became professional, I did a lot of indie development. And I'm also a big promoter of diversity in the video game industry. I am the alumni coordinator for the IGDA Foundation, and I'm a Women in Games ambassador. So when I'm not focused on diversifying the game industry, working in games, developing games, in my free time, I'm still a graduate student at SCAG, so I still do my studies for getting my master's in game design. So I do like to teach sometimes. And I like to watch anime and read manga on the side.
How did you even start? Like, where did your love for games and stuff even come from? Like, what made you want to become what you are becoming?
When I was the bright age of 6, I played a game called Jade Empire, and I played Beyond Good and Evil. Both games that had a big impact on me. There was some really cool scenes in it, really cool action scenes, lots of good depth storytelling. There was a lot of plot twists, and I was just very engrossed. I was engrossed in that game more than any movie ever did to me at the age of like 8 or 10 when I played it. It's the first time I saw like a female lead in a game. Jade Empire lets you pick your own character, so of course I picked a female. But Beyond Good and Evil, Jade was the female lead. She was the main character, and she was amazing. She was awesome. She was intelligent. Like I wrote an essay about that at school one time about how much I love Jade from Beyond Good and Evil, and it made me really want to make games. And my dad's like, "All right, go do that." And so I kept saying I want to make video games until all the way through high school. I didn't know how. I just kept writing stories for games I wanted to make. And by the time I was going to graduate, my dad's all like, "You still want to make games?" I was like, "I've been saying it." So I was like 6 or 8. I still want to. He's like, "Well, you got to figure out the easiest way to get in the industry because you do live in the deep South in a small town. So it's kind of hard for someone like me to go into an internship or anything like that." And so I was like, well, the easiest, looked on log Google searching, the easiest way was for me to get into computer science. I was like, I really hope I'm good with computers. I was. So I started studying Python, Java, seeing how I can bring some of my ideas to life, and went to get my undergrad bachelor's in computer science. And I graduated in 2020, got my first like IT job, stayed in the IT world for about 2.5 years. And then I started applying to game jobs, and here I am now as a gameplay engineer.
Talk a little bit about as far as coming up and writing the stories and doing all these different things as opposed to now where you got all of this technology and all of these different elements coming in. What's the difference for you? Like, is it a major change for you? Is it like a step in the right direction? How do you see the whole scene?
I like to take like a more optimistic approach because new technology can be very scary to people. I go to an art school, so it's very scary to people in my art school about this technology. And I try to be like, there's positive aspects to it. And I take a very positive approach because without technology, I probably wouldn't be in the game industry. It sucks. 2020 was awful, but because 2020, I was able to network with people who were in California, and I was in small town Alabama. So I really feel like technology helped me get into the game industry because I don't think I would have gotten into game industry without having to move all the way to California, New York, or some big city like that. I mean, now I did move in a big city. I'm close to the Atlanta, Georgia area, but because I felt had the game industry gave me the opportunity to talk to people who are not in my area because the technology you had through Discord, through like Black and Gaming, through like video calls like this. We didn't have that when I was growing up, not as frequently, not as well when I was growing up. And yes, I feel like now anyone can get in no matter where they're from, and I think that's amazing.
Talk about like your studies now, like what you working on, what are you studying now? Like obviously you got a lot of skills, but obviously you still kind of perfecting and kind of building on those skills. What you kind of working on now?
So I decided in 2021 to go back to school for game design because for 2 reasons. I thought that, okay, it's cool that I like the game industry, but chances of me going into the game industry, moving to California, I'm not ready for that yet. So what can I change about the game industry? So I decided maybe I could teach game design. I did an author undergrad where I taught girls how to program, and I went to girls' inks and local girls' clubs. That's something I'm very passionate about, girls in STEM. And I was like, maybe I can get my master's degree and become a professor in game design. And also, that was one of the reasons. The other reason was because I could make a game very functional, almost bug free, and it was great program wise, but it was the most boring game in the world. And I was like, I need some game design skills
Yeah.
because this is not fun. I don't know how to put the fun into the game. I don't know how to make it
Right.
technically nice, but I don't know how to put the fun in there. And I was like, I need to go to game design school. And so I applied to SCAG. That's where I'm at now. I go to SCAG virtually. And I was all like, hey, I want to be a game designer, but I have like, I'm going to get MFA in game design, but I have like a bachelor's in computer science. And they told me like, well, make 3 game demos in 6 months. And so those 6 months was me grinding real hard, making 3 game demos to present, to talk about to SCAG. And then not only getting in, but getting a scholarship as well.
Fig and Broccoli. Talk a little bit about that.
So Fig and Broccoli was the game I made with the Indie Game Academy. Shout out to Indie Game Academy. There are a small little group, not small anymore, they're actually quite big, made by Willem. And he basically has it, well, people who want to do game industry, we do like a little thing where we get together for like 3 months. We all assign different groups and work on a game, and we all kind of make our own little mini studio. Fig and Broccoli was the first time I kind of worked really hard on a 3D game. I really don't like 3D games. At the Indie Game Academy, when I was actually kind of like one of their prefects, aka like basically a student assistant, and that was me helping the students while I was helping. And I said, I'll be your programmer. I'll program all the fun things. You do all the other stuff. I don't want you to worry about any technical stuff. I want you to actually focus on your craft. And they did an amazing job focusing on craft. Shout out to everyone who worked on that project. I'm glad we was an all-female team. And it was our first time really working in 3D physics. So it's not the best 3D physics, but I really, really enjoyed Fig and Broccoli. It was great.
Oh, touch on the writing a little bit, because you said that's kind of how you kind of really kind of started. You were kind of just basically writing the type of games you wanted to write.
It's going to sound a little weird, but I'm a big fan of anime. And I really liked the anime shows I watched. I really like Yu Show, I like Inuyasha. I was really into anime and video games. And so I was like, oh man, I want to like make characters and storylines like the animes I see. But I want to be in game form. I want them to like feel interactive. I love these characters. I want to interact with them. And then that's how I got into the JRPG scene. And when I got into the JRPG scene, I'm like, this is what I need. And I started thinking about my own characters. Like, man, I wonder if I could write a character like this and see what the adventure would be. Because I just started imagining things. And my dad was always a good storyteller, so he would tell me stories that he liked. He used to listen. Right now, my dad even listens to like podcasts about storytelling, about horror stories, and I really like that stuff. And so I was like, let me create my own with my own characters. And I really got into the writing scene, especially in high school. I knew like it's hard to be a writer in the game industry, and I think it's very difficult being a narrative designer. And there's not a lot of education for it, which is the basis of my thesis. Well, so I was all like, let me write my stories on the side and become a programmer so I can program my own stories. And lately I have, and I've always been I like to be kind of vulnerable. I was always super nervous about sharing my work and sharing my writing. Always was so scared about it. And then one day this year, I wrote for a visual novel called A Vampire's Tale for a week-long game jam, and I'm going to continue it. And it's going great. It's the first time I like put my writing out there as a programmer and a writer. So.
Like, where do you see, especially as this technology kind of takes off with like the AI and all this different stuff, like where do you see it headed? Like you said, you like to basically see it as a more of a good over bad. A lot of people are, like you said, they scared of this stuff. Like, I mean, they really are kind of terrified that, oh, it's going to take our jobs. Oh, it's going to do this, it's gonna do that. Like, do you think it's more of just a disconnect? Do you think it's more people just need more education? Like, what do you think?
I think it's 50-50. I had a very long conversation with my father before, and it's more of people. It's going to take some jobs. I'm going to be honest. It's going to take basic jobs. It's going to require you to understand AI and use it as a tool. In the writing scene, we used to have to write barks over and over again. There used to be someone who just wrote barks for games, and barks for a game is like when someone called you says reload, so you know the enemy's reloading, or like small thing like that, banter. AI is going to take away some of that, but AI can't, in my opinion, take away a whole story, a whole plot. So the writers we have, those basic jobs of like barks and that kind of things and banter might go away, but that requires the writers to kind of have to elevate and work with AI. The people who are going to have the jobs in the future are the people who are going to be able to work with it. And Like, that's why I love my current school, because right now I'm trying to work with AI with the upgrading narrative design class I'll be helping with. So we want to work with the AI. We don't
Right.
want to just be scared for it, because it's not going to go away. I'm so sorry to everyone who thinks it is. It's here to stay, and we need to work with it. Now, I do believe in unionization. I was a strong supporter of the writer's strike, that it should not take people's writing jobs away, because obviously a human can't tell when a human didn't write something or a human didn't do this. So I do believe the gaming should unionize as this AI overtake is coming, because we need to have the unionization for it. But I don't think we should run away as a tool to be used. And it's going to take away some basic jobs, but there's going to be some more advanced jobs that utilize it. So it's just going to require us to think harder and smarter.
What do you plan on doing, like, as soon as you get done? I know you kind of teaching. I know you're doing a bunch of different stuff. Like, what's the kind of the focus?
So when I get done with school, I mean, I didn't expect to get a job in between. So I am going to continue my job. I love my current job. Owlchemy Labs is amazing. I love being there. And maybe just teach games on the side, maybe go to a few colleges, maybe teach on the side, kind of my side thing to really encourage people to get into the game industry. Because as you said earlier, it seems like there's not many stories that engage as much. And I always like to differentiate. That's kind of the common consumer. If I am an indie game consumer, I love being indie. I love being AA indie. AA indie are still making those amazing, great stories that we love. It seems like the downfall because AAA is always in your face more.
Right.
But AAA is not doing what they need to do. And there's a lot of mass layoffs came from AAA companies. Some came from indie companies, but a lot of them came from AAA companies. So I'm always going to stay in the indie scene. If I ever go AAA, it will be in a very high rank. They don't have such high success margins. If an indie game does flop or whatever, the studio's not, most of the time, sometimes the studios is not over. They don't need the game to be successful to live.
A little bit of a bigger picture. What type of games would you like to make?
My dream, and this is what I want to be. I want to be a creative director one day, small studio or not. I want to be a creative director, whether I'm working for a studio or not, with my own studio. I want to be able to still make games that I enjoy and like. I'm in the process of making several indie games on the side, some that might have some partnerships involved.
There you go.
So I want to be able to really support the gaming industry in the Southeast area. I'm currently near the Atlanta, Georgia area, and we have some Atlanta game devs, but it's not as big as California and New York. I want to get Atlanta to be as big as California and New York in the gaming industry. Because honestly, there's so much talent here, so much Black talent here. And we should be just as awesome as them. And I really want to promote that. So I've been trying to get involved with different game dev things, especially once I graduate school. I'll have a lot more free time to do that. And also another thing I want to do is change game design academia. Again, I have big picture ideas. My thesis I'm currently working on is about the lack of narrative design education and how we can improve upon it, make better storylines and get people to interview narrative design. And people want narrative design classes and want to do stuff. Because, for example, one thing I noticed that I talked to my professors about is that if I want to be a computer science game programmer, go get a computer science degree. If I want to be a game UI artist, go get UI degree. I want to be an artist, go get an art degree. I want to be a writer for games. It's like, that's not a pathway. And I want to fix that. And they tell them to go and film. Film and game are similar, they're not the same though. Making a story for a movie and making a story for a game is two different things. So I want to change that. So I want to have an impact in game academia, in the game industry down here in the South, and eventually become a creative director one day and might have my games nice and popular.
Rolling for Romance, 1,000 Sleepless Tales. Kind of just talk about some of the other projects you've worked on.
So those are smaller projects. My side projects are very small, and they're always passion projects. The stuff that I enjoyed as a kid that I don't see as much anymore. For example, 1,000 Sleepless Tales, currently in development hiatus, but hopefully we'll get back to it soon. It's like a small RPG indie game. For those of you who are really into the RPG indie horror scene when you was younger, it was inspired by Mad Father and Ib and games like that. I really love RPG Maker horror games. It made me really appreciate horror in fiction. And it was made in RPG Maker, and it was really cool. And Fate Finder was a game that came from a class. One of my classmates came up with a great game design document. We was in game design documentation class. And their game was amazing. It was a visual novel. and it was a great idea. I'm all like, hey, you can make this into a thing. And they were like, I'm not sure. You can make this into a thing. I'm a programmer. You're a writer. We can go find some artists. We found some artists, and we're in the process of making it. We'll hopefully have more updates to the chapter this year.
Rundown as far as how to find you if they want to get in touch with you.
So I want people to find me I'm very active on LinkedIn. Please follow my LinkedIn page. It's Valencia Coleman LinkedIn. Also follow my itch.io page, which is on my LinkedIn. It's VC Creative Endeavors. You can find that same title on Twitter as well. So please follow me on those platforms. And also, if you're interested in being part of the gaming industry and just being a game developer, especially if you come from a more diverse background, even if you don't, feel free to hit me up. I have meetings with people who want to be in the gaming industry. I get to talk to them, try to give them some career direction. If you want to hit me up about that at any time, I'm just a person that just loves making games, love bringing people into the game industry, love to talk to people, and keep following my LinkedIn for all my latest projects.